How's it going, Guardians? We are finally just within hours of the contest raid coming out. So really quickly, I want to go over the weapons that we're bringing into the raid that we're going to use for damage, ad situations, puzzle encounters, anything that we can think of. There are a couple things missing on here, but I can't have everything on my character at once. But I'm going to give you the gist of what we got and what we got it. First of all, we have a primary in the first slot. I bring a shoot to loot hand cannon. This is the only primary I have in my first slot. You can bring whatever primary you want. But mostly what I'm focused on is special weapons, and that's like what you're going to be focusing on and probably what dictates your build the most. I do have a 1-2 punch hand cannon because I am going to be doing a lot of melee builds between Sunbreaker and Strand, and if I'm doing Consecration, that will now work with 1-2 punch. So I have a 1-2 punch shotgun here just in case. I am bringing a rocket sidearm and a rocket pulse just to have some kind of high efficiency ad clear option. Probably going to be using Tanasha's more. I just kind of like the rocket pulse. I want to see how it does in this situation. I'm bringing a blinding GL because I think blinding GLs are going to make up a lot for the stats that we don't necessarily have perfected right now. Add a lot of safety to your rotations and your puzzle encounters, as long as you don't need the damage of a special weapon. If I'm able to kill a major or mini boss pretty quickly with my hammers, then I'm not necessarily worried about having a shotgun instead of a blinding GL. We have a sniper and a shotgun, both for boss damage. Now, I do have like 3 different Praetus. I have my Kinetic Tremors Honing one, which is more of a general use one here. If I'm really going to do backup boss damage, I will use the 4th times bait and switch roll that I have in my vault. So this is the one that I chose to pull for now. Heritage is the recombination, reconstruction, which is the classic. And then a DPS fusion rifle. Just controlled burst and overflow is plenty strong. These things are just very, very powerful on their own. Great for majors, great for mini bosses, great for boss damage and backup rotations. Since I'm on Titan, I am bringing a tractor cannon. If I'm the tractor guy, I will be using scatter signals as my boss damage most likely. So that's just there to patch up that hole in my loadout. We do have Touch of Malice, which is probably going to be our backup weapon since Outbreak Perfected is disabled currently. We are going to fall back to Touch of Malice unless the situation is something that's like we want to be using Final Warning or Rat King. This is going to be our go-to. In our energy slot, I'm bringing Lord of Wolves. I think it's the de facto just best overall special weapon to bring, and possibly one of the best weapons to bring. For boss damage, it was nerfed because its total reserves is less. So if we are doing a boss phase, I might switch off of Lord of Wolves onto just Sunshot or some other primary like No Hesitation, Shoot to Loot Parabellum. I do have multiple here. I think Kvastov is competing for Sunshot's place in my loadout. But just because I am using solar, I have a Sunshot, and there are just so many special weapons that are good in the first slot. Once again, a rocket sidearm is accompanying us. We have a fusion here as backup, blinding GL here. Wave frame, I think Forbearance is really good for its ammo generation uses, as well as just for ad clear in general. Forbearance, I think, is doing pretty well right now. Velocity Baton is here because we need to trap doorways. And then I have a No Hesitation to heal teammates and heal myself. Should be really useful if I switch to Empyrean. I'll take like Ashes off and put Benevolence on to get some extra cooldown speed. And I have Vexcalibur because we're expecting it to be a Vex raid. And if it is Vexcalibur with Synthos and Berserker or even Worm Gods should be pretty strong. And this will flashbang any Vex that's not a boss. So I think it is just a great pick to take in just in case it is Vex. If it is Vex, I might switch off of this and take something else. And then for heavy, we have Machine Gun, Rocket for damage, GL for damage, GL for ad clear. These are my 2 options for ad clear. And then if it's just ad clear and that's all I'm worried about, Underlord's going to be on. Tractor if I'm doing debuff. Close range DPS is Zacharias. Long range is Queenbreaker. And then Parasites for burst damage. Pretty much everything else is, if I need it, I'll pull it out. I might pull out a sword if I'm going to do strongholds. I might pull out an Ergo Sum if it's a good Ergo Sum encounter. And then obviously if I needed like a different fusion DPS or a different sniper DPS, I can pull those out. If we're going to talk about exotics that you want to be looking for, use cases and things that you might be able to take advantage of, Rat King's obviously good if it's close range DPS. Huckleberry has good ammo gen if you need to tear up just red bars. Izzy's is good for your rotations. Arbalest is good if there's a shield in the way. Bastion is good for melee builds. Monte Carlo is good for melee builds. Witherhoard is good for trapping doorways in the case that you're not getting much use out of Velocity Baton. You can look for something like Aegers. Aegers is great for ad control. And then we're looking at like Necrochasm and Kvastov for ad clear. Pharaoh Dyad is disabled. New Land Beyond, Finish the Catalyst, good backup option. Conditional Finality is also a good safe option. In your energy slot, we're thinking Sunshot, obviously I already have. Graviton if you want Void. Risk Runner if there's a lot of Arc. Lord of Wolves. And then it's like maybe Taraba if you need to kill some red bars. And then we're looking up to Fourth Horseman for DPS, Cloud Strike for backup damage. And then maybe some of these glaives if they're looking really, really good. Or you need the, bubble or the healing turret. Hierarchy is disabled, so do not worry about Hierarchy right now. Fire is disabled. Icebreaker is disabled. Buried Bloodline is still going to be good for Devour and some extra damage. Does a little bit more than the Rocket Sidearms. And then that's probably it. Maybe the Hand Cannon if you need a Hand Cannon. And heavy-wise, Wardcliff if it's a vehicle boss. Whisper if you need it. Sleeper if you need it. 1K is decent for not headshot bosses since we can't use Grand Overture. We don't really have a really great replacement for Grand Overture. But I'm leaning towards Sleeper or 1K in that case. And then obviously Xeno's a good pick if you're doing something that requires chunky damage, but it's not a boss specifically. And then, levies. Div is something that you need to have. Galley you need to have. But that is it for weapons that we are running. Things to consider. I think blinding GLs are going to be pretty useful in this new stat system where we're trying to build into specs. Make sure you have a high weapon set, make sure you have a high weapon set and a high super set, and then that's pretty much all you need. Whatever you need for ad clear encounters, take your pick, but you want a good super set to pop super and a good weapon set to do damage phase. That's all for today, and I hope to see you all in the raid very, very soon.